Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast, and we are getting ready for week one. I got your starts and your sits, and I got Swami Rob from 94 Rock joining me as well. So here we go. Let's check it.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmy Maverick.
Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick, and welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. And we are coming at you right now. It is Wednesday. We are getting ready for the NFL season to start, and we're going to do our starts and sits today. And so joining me for the starts and sits is Mr. Swami Rob of 94 Rock. Thank you very much for joining me today, Swami. How you doing?
I'm just about drafted out. I've done 3, and I got 2 left to go, man. How about you?
I have 2 tonight myself, and I have to say my newest draft tip is that don't schedule 2 drafts in a row because it is hard. It is quite exhausting to do 2 drafts in a row.
I can only imagine.
Next year I will do better, but yeah, I have 2 tonight myself, and going to get this one done. And we got our draft tonight, so it's the 94 Rock Listeners League draft is happening tonight. We're both in it. We don't even know our draft positions yet. That'll be revealed this evening, but I'm looking forward to that as well. It should be fun. It's a PPR league, and I'm looking forward to another awesome draft. I've had great drafts so far this year. I'm really confident in my teams.
You know, I think what ended up happening this year with fantasy football is much like the football season itself. They canceled the preseason, and so news trickling out of camps was real slow and real similar. And then all of a sudden, wham, football season's here. And I had no fantasy leagues that I was playing in at all 2 weeks ago. Now I'm in 5, and everybody's drafts happen Sunday through tonight.
Yes.
So I don't think anybody was ready for it. So all the league commissioners were scrambling just like everybody else, you know.
Yeah, and I got to say, man, the NFL is not going to be the polished gem that we're used to. With no preseason games and these rookies coming in, this is their first game ever. Be prepared for bad clock management and poor tackling and blown up plays on both sides. Just be prepared for that, and hopefully things will go your way. You'll have the receiver that the missed tackle happens on and he runs down for a touchdown for a huge score, but it's going to be a messy week one. So I just want to let everyone know to be prepared for that. Things will settle down in week 2 and 3, but right now we're in kind of uncharted waters for the NFL. They've never gone without a preseason, and here they are.
Well, I don't know how much viewing you've done of Major League Baseball or hockey or basketball so far, but I've watched all 3 of those extensively, and I can tell you so far it's been mixed results. So, For example, baseball, the piping into the crowd noise, the first day or two it was kind of novel. But the problem is, if you watch a baseball game, you know better than to know that everybody in the stadium is at peak noise the whole time, unless it's the playoffs. So it really comes off as artificial. Baseball I haven't really liked. Hockey has been phenomenal without any crowd at all. And basketball, pretty damn good too. So I thought, man, all bets are off with all the usual performers now that they're playing in bubbles or whatever. And, the more things change, the more they stay the same. You still got your LeBrons. You still got your Clayton Kershaws. You still got your Garrett Coles. So I wouldn't be surprised if all the guys you're used to killing it in the NFL, they're going to continue to do so, I think.
Oh yeah, I'm very sure that the stars will still be the stars, but like I said, I'm talking about like I said, just the sloppiness and it's just not going to be quite as tight as we're used to for the NFL, but it's still going to be great. I'm so looking forward to it. By the way, the first game is tomorrow night. It's the Chiefs versus Houston. What's your take on that game?
I think you've got 2 very rich quarterbacks while the rest of the world is going broke. That's what it looks like to me. I don't really like the Houston Texans all that much this year. I'm not saying Deshaun Watson isn't good, but I think he's a little overvalued. I hope that doesn't piss anybody off, but I really do. And I feel like Mahomes, if there was anybody in the league worth that kind of money, you're probably looking at the guy. The Chiefs didn't lose anybody. I think Kansas City runs roughshod over Houston. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. In the start sits, I've got several Houston Texans on the sits, but I do have one as a start. So we'll get to that in just a second. So let's now my first thing for this weekend, man. My general sit is going to be all rookies. If you have a rookie on your team and you can sit them, I would recommend doing it this week, just because we don't know what the usage is going to be. And even when we look at the elite running backs, the elite rookies coming in, we got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we got Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers. Those guys, there's other guys in the backfield who are going to get touches. And so, Darrell Henderson is going to be working with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Marlon Mack is going to be there in the backfield with Jonathan Taylor, and Malcolm Brown is going to be in the backfield with Cam Akers. And so, like I said, when I was drafting, I made sure that if I ever drafted a rookie running back, they were at least my RB3. So they would be a flex option and therefore easier to substitute if I needed to. And I say this weekend, you really should substitute if you can. What do you think about that?
Well, I took a reach on J.K. Dobbins in 2 leagues. The problem was, it's particularly in my auction league, I paid pretty dearly to get Zeke Elliott because Barkley and McCaffrey were gone. So by the time I came around to get another running back, there was not much left that wasn't going to cost me out the nose. So I kind of had to reach for him. I took a reach on the kid from Baltimore last year that didn't end up doing anything. I forget his name at this point.
Oh, was it Justice Hill? Because that was one that I was
yes, that was him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you're saying he was going to be like Alvin Kamara. I'm like, awesome. I'm going to get him on my team, and he did nothing.
Nah, nothing at all. And I hope that doesn't happen with Dobbins this year because I'm kind of counting on him. But I've also taken a reach on guys like Kerryon Johnson because they're available that time of the draft. And the problem is, I wasn't even aware that Adrian Peterson went to the Lions until a couple of days ago. Plus, they've got another guy split the backfield with him. I bet Adrian Peterson gets a lot of touches.
I actually would be okay with starting Kerryon this week.
I'm going to.
DeAndre Swift has been dealing with an injury, so he has not been playing a lot. So again, he is definitely someone that you would want to bench this week. And Adrian Peterson just joined the team like 3 days ago, so I don't think it's going to be a whole lot of competition. It will be primarily Kerryon Johnson doing the work in that backfield, at least this week 1. So if you got him, I'd start him.
This isn't necessarily fantasy business here, but just football business. But I'm telling you right now, when you look at the NFC North, okay, I don't think you can expect much from Chicago. Trubisky beat out Foles, and I never thought that happened. I don't expect a lot out of the Vikings. And I think Green Bay is going to regress. Don't be surprised if a 10-6 or 11-5 Detroit Lions team sneaks up and wins that division this year. I can see it happening.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, man, I took Matthew Stafford in a couple of my leagues for fantasy. I love him, but those are my weakest rated teams are the ones I took Stafford on. I'm like, you guys are sleeping on Stafford. He is going to be fantastic this year. And so I'm super excited that I got him. And I got Galladay in one of my leagues too.
Yeah, me too.
So looking forward to that. So let's get to our starts and sits. So we're going to start with quarterbacks. And my first sit is a guy we've already talked about, man, Deshaun Watson. He's going to have problems, man. This is a road game against the Super Bowl champs. He doesn't have Hopkins anymore, and Brandon Cooks is probably not going to play either. So we have a seriously depleted wide receiver core. It just is telling me, man, if you got Watson, I would not start him this week, man. If you got another quarterback, there are better quarterbacks you could start in his place.
Yeah, Kansas City's defense will probably be better this year than they were last year, too. They weren't great last year, but they stepped up at the end of the year. The Chiefs really haven't lost anybody. Right. I have a feeling they're going to pick up where they left off. I wouldn't start Watson this week. No way.
Yeah. And so, but I do have a couple of great starts for you. And the first one is Cam Newton, who I am completely comfortable with starting this week as they get a home game against Miami to start out. What a perfect situation for Cam. I really, really like what he could do this week in week 1. And I think it might actually be overdue. Like, people are going to think he's way better than he actually is, just because the matchup is so prime.
You getting the feeling that the New England Patriots are going to end up – everybody's so high on Buffalo right now. If Newton is just above average, New England's winning that division again. I got news for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think Buffalo will win it, but you never ever count the Patriots out. They'll be just fine.
I can't wait till we can. And hopefully that's going to be middle of this year when Cam goes to crap and the Patriots have to turn to Jared Stidham, and then we can finally sleep on him.
Right. And another start that I would take this week is Jimmy Garoppolo, who's playing against Arizona. Now, everybody's talking about the Arizona offense and how awesome it is, and I do love the Arizona offense, but that defense was one of the worst defenses in the league last year. So Garoppolo's going to be able to score points on Arizona. And, so I think he is also a great start this week, a guy that I normally would not start. I think he's a good option for this week one.
All right. I've been looking over the schedule too, and you know who I think everybody's sleeping on, and I have a feeling he's going to have a big game. That doesn't mean he's going to have a big season, but I bet he has a big game. I'm looking at Derek Carr with the Raiders on the Panthers defense. Don't be surprised.
Yeah, that Panthers defense is a complete rebuild.
Yeah,
I mean, they drafted 8 rookies for all defensive players in the NFL draft. And so they're definitely building from scratch. They got rid of so many stars last year, so many stars of that team. So, starting against the Panthers, I think is going to be a must for any team that plays the Panthers. It's going to be good.
What about how about if 2020 is the year when, as you've got your Phillip Rivers regressing and Tom Brady's getting older, what if all...
Oh, you just froze. You just locked up. All right. So next up, we've got our running backs, and I got a couple of sits for you here. My first one is Leonard Fournette, who is now a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, and they're playing New Orleans this weekend. But this guy just joined the team this week, and so I expect him to only be used situationally. And I would not count on any sort of fantasy-worthy workload from him in week one.
I don't feel like he's going to do anything all year long. He proved that to me last year. I'm done with Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, and that backfield is so crowded because it's got Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn and LaShawn McCoy. So it just seems like a fantasy trap, man. You're never going to be able to guess which guy is going to get the load of work on any given week.
Yep, exactly right.
Yeah, I'm also kind of down on Drake, Kenyon Drake, for week one, because again, that San Francisco defense is no joke, and they do have a stifling run defense. He will get yards through the air, so that probably will buffer some of the down here. But I do have Drake in one of my leagues, and it is going to be, I'm going to have to start him because he was like my number 1 pick or my number 2 pick, and so I don't have much of a choice here. But don't expect much from Drake in week one.
I rode Kenyon Drake in my flex last year in the last 4 or 5 weeks all the way to the third round of the playoffs. Yeah. He was just huge for me. And I just grabbed him randomly off the waiver wire thinking, well, I'll take a flyer on him. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to repeat that this year. I think people are going to be looking for him now.
I think he's going to do well this year. But it's just the week one matchup is just a poor matchup. So, he's going to be a risky play. So, but as far as starts go, I got a couple of starts I think will do fantastic this week. Tarik Cohen of Chicago they're at Detroit, but Montgomery is out, and so he's going to be the primary back in this backfield, and I can see a lot of volume here, and I think it's going to be really a solid play to go with Cohen. To start him this week for week one.
That's interesting. You're pointing that out too, because in the 3 drafts I've been in, I can guarantee you Tarik Cohen is sitting on the waiver wire with just about every league I'm in as we speak, because he became available late. And everybody kept passing on him. I thought about it for a while and I never did. But so if your league's anything like mine, everybody out there watching, then I bet you could pick him up right now.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, if you're in one of those situations where you're not really sure who you could start, and you've got one of those rookie running backs in one of your flex spot, I would pick up Tarik Cohen if he's available on the waiver wire. And this is actually a good rule for everybody. You should just check your waiver wire just to see who's on there. Sometimes you'll be surprised, and there'll be some great player just sitting there. Someone else dropped him for whatever, and you can just pick him up for free, man. You really need to do it before the games start this weekend. So I definitely recommend that.
Nice.
Yeah, my other start is the other big receiving running back, but that's James White. Again, great matchup. You got Damian Harris went to IR. Sony Michel has a foot injury he's still dealing with. I think James White's going to be the primary guy in that backfield, and he should get a ton of volume from Cam Newton. So again, another excellent start for week 1. I'd absolutely put him in if you got him.
Nice. All right, I can see it.
So moving on to wide receivers, my first wide receiver for a sit would be Odell Beckham Jr. And I kind of feel bad for him because he's kind of having a crappy week this week.
Yeah, that's what I hear. It's not going so good. It's going so. Dude cannot shake controversy, can he?
He cannot. If there's no drama around OBJ, it's not OBJ. So
I think what they ought to do is they ought to just go ahead and set him out until a full investigation is done, because I've got Jarvis Landry and I need him getting all the catches.
I love Jarvis Landry this year, and in fact, I have both these guys at similar value levels. But because Landry was available 3 rounds later, I got him in nearly every league I have. So I think he's going to be great. But the big thing with OBJ, they're playing Baltimore this week. They're at Baltimore. Baltimore doesn't allow splash plays, and that's how OBJ makes his money. And so I think it's going to be a very disappointing week for him. So I would stay away from Odell. I'm also down on Hollywood Brown on the other side. Ravens playing Cleveland here. Cleveland does have a tough pass D, and they don't allow passing touchdowns. That's one of the things that they rate very well on. And so, Hollywood Brown was a regression candidate for me anyway. This season, I have no shares of him in any of my leagues, just because I think Lamar Jackson's touchdown total is going to regress substantially this year, probably into the 20s from last year, where he had the most touchdown passes on the lowest pass volume. That's going to regress, and it's going to directly impact all of his receivers. So, but anyway, I think Hollywood Brown is a sit as well.
All right. Yeah, but I still think Lamar on the ground's a pretty sure bet, though. I really do. Seriously,
he obviously has a very safe floor, but expecting him to repeat this year and get another 36 touchdowns, I think is unrealistic. I got him projected at about 25 touchdowns, and that's going to really hurt his value, but we'll see what happens. We'll see. I'm probably wrong, and he'll probably do it again, but
all right.
For starts anyway, we talked about this earlier. I think Will Fuller is a massive green light start for this week. I mean, we already know he has a great connection with Deshaun Watson, and he's healthy. He's not dealing with any ailments right now. And again, he's the only receiver right now for that team because Brandon Cooks is going to be probably out or very limited. So I think he is going to do very, very well. That Deshaun Watson is going to have to throw deep balls and make huge plays just to keep up with the Chiefs. So this is it, man. Will Fuller is an absolute must start this week for week 1.
Yeah, is Brandon Cooks still a thing?
He is, and he's
that's amazing.
He just
taking over.
He's moving into Hopkins' role on the offense as the one. But again, he hasn't been healthy. And so, and he always has that concussion issue. But again, I think Will Fuller, the ball's going to be funneled to Will Fuller a ton on Thursday. So
if you've done any following of the Houston Texans for the last several years, or Brandon Cooks for that matter, if I'm Deshaun Watson, thank God they're paying me that money, because DeAndre Hopkins is gone, and Fuller and Cooks, they're never healthy. So his receiving core is a waste. And if you had to draft David Johnson as your running back, you're screwed.
It is a very risky, high injury risk team.
Yeah, big time.
But as long as Will Fuller is healthy, man, I will ride that. As long as he's healthy, he's going to be great this year.
Yeah.
So
all right, I've owned Will Fuller.
So I think he's going to be fantastic on Thursday.
I've owned Will Fuller for 2 or 3 years in the last, and I can tell you, he is going to do great for you all 2 weeks he's on the field.
Right, exactly. That's serious. About right.
Yep.
It's kind of like John Ross last year.
Totally.
If Ross was healthy, he'd just play him, and then he got injured. It's like, well, he's done. That's what you're going to do with Fuller. I also really like Edelman this week. Again, the Miami matchup is going to be fantastic. I think he's going to get a ton of volume from Cam Newton. And so Edelman is also an absolute start this week. So he's great.
Yeah, Julian Edelman, man, this is going to be an interesting year for him. I'm hoping that N'Keal Harry kind of steps up, because I've got him in one of my leagues, and I could use him playing well, as a matter of fact. But I don't know how that team's going to go yet. I don't know what to think about New England.
Yeah,
I'm wondering
if Harry
maybe,
has been really disappointing, and he hasn't gotten any good reports out of camp. I'm
that's
really
what I'm hearing.
bummed out. He seems like he's kind of like a bust in the making, just as a NFL player. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I don't want anything to do with Harry. I got 0 shares of him in my leagues.
Yeah, all right.
But let's go to tight ends because there are a couple of tight ends here. I think you should one that you should sit for sure. Gronkowski playing at New Orleans. And here's the thing: there's just so many negatives here. With Tampa Bay, they've got 3 tight ends that are all good pass catchers. You got Howard, and you've got why am I drawing a blank on his name? Cameron Brate, and Gronkowski. And so far during camp, actually Howard has been getting the best buzz amongst the tight ends. But just the fact that Bruce Arians does not like to target the tight end, that's not part of his game plan. He uses tight ends as blockers. Just makes me, I mean, the whole situation's a mess, but don't start Gronk this week. We got to see what his usage is and how much Brady's going to rely on him.
I don't have a whole lot of choice in one league because it was my auction league, and by the time it got to tight ends, Gronk was about all I could afford. So
right.
I'm gonna have to ride him for a week or two until I see what plays out.
Okay, well, you might want to check to see if this other guy is available, because a guy that I like for starting would be Chris Herndon of the New York Jets, who's playing at Buffalo week 1. But the Jets receivers are huge injury problems. Brashad Perriman is injured. Denzel Mims is injured. So basically the only receivers are, it's Herndon and it's Le'Veon Bell can catch passes. And then you've got the slot, Jameson Crowder. So I think there's going to be a ton of volume for Herndon, and he would be someone that I've definitely started ahead of Gronk this week. Because I think obviously the Jets are going to be playing from behind. They're going to have to pass the ball a bunch. I think Herndon's going to be a big beneficiary. Yeah,
but there's no Robbie Anderson this year, and the Jets receiving core is just a bunch of, and there's not a whole lot going on there, man. So if this guy's good at tight end,
so much of it will have to go to Herndon.
Right.
Short dump off passes when everyone else is covered. That's exactly what you want. And so, like I said, I think
poor Sam Darnold, man. Poor Sam Darnold. That guy had so much hype, and he's just like a little bit more expanded version of Josh Rosen. Good quarterback out of college who just gets stuck with all these sucky circumstances. He may never develop into anybody that we're going to talk about.
That's true. And they're saying that the Jets might just tank this year and take a quarterback and then trade Sam Darnold somewhere else. And who knows, maybe he can have a revival. It did happen for Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill got his revival once he left his team. So there still might be hope for Sam Darnold, but don't expect much this year. I mean, Adam Gase, I just hate that guy. He's the worst coach in the NFL.
He's terrible, man.
And
He's awful.
The sooner they fire him, the better. I'm putting the over-under for a firing at Game 6 of this year. So,
I like it.
And I definitely see the Jets could go 0-6, right now.
Yeah.
He's just awful. But anyway,
it makes you think of the times when back in 2004, let's go all the way back to 2004, when Eli Manning was the consensus #1 pick, and he knew the Chargers were going to take him, and he pouted like a little brat and said I'm not playing for the Chargers, and he ended up getting stuck on the Giants, right? And at the time, everybody think, oh, what a baby, you whiny little baby. And now I can kind of see where he's coming from because of Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen and maybe even Baker Mayfield could have done something like that. Who knows how their career – well, obviously it's not over for some of these guys. But when you get drafted in these sorry-ass organizations, man, it's terrible,
Well, you look at the whole thing with in Chicago, and how they gave up like a million draft picks to get their guy, and they could have gotten Mahomes, they could have gotten Deshaun Watson. And so it happens, but
let me ask you something. Speaking of the Chicago Bears real quick, look at the long storied history of the Chicago Bears, right? When have they ever had a great quarterback after 1970? Seriously, McMahon had a couple of serviceable years. Cutler looked okay at times, but they've never had a great quarterback.
Right.
So weird, man.
Yeah, I mean, but there's several teams that are like that. So
yeah, but it's so weird. The Bears have had so much Pro Bowl, Hall of Fame talent everywhere else. They just never get the quarterback,
Right, and I mean, why can't they find the right guy? And I don't think Nick Foles is the right guy either, man. When they signed Nick Foles, I'm like, Foles has never done anything outside of Philly. He's never done anything.
You take him out of the Kelly Green and he's done.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And so I'm not surprised that he did not, beat out to be the starter. But, I mean, again, Chicago, it's going to be a long season. But Tarik Cohen, start him this weekend. He's got a good matchup. So do that.
Hey, you want a spoiler alert for next season?
Okay, what?
I have a fearless prediction. Nick Foles doesn't work out. Mitchell Trubisky is officially a bust. The Bears get a low draft position. Jerry Jones doesn't pay Dak Prescott, and the Bears bring in Dak.
That could happen, and that would be very good for the Bears. I like Dak Prescott. I think he's really good, and I can't believe how stupid the Cowboys have been about his contract. They could have locked him down last year at a very reasonable price, and they chose not to. And so now they're going to pay the price, and they might have to start from scratch with a.
Well, you know what the talk of the town in Dallas is. I've got 4 or 5 cousins in Dallas who are all hardcore Cowboy fans. And the talk on sports radio there and the talk in the newspapers is that Jerry Jones did not pay Dak Prescott as much as he wanted to right now because he spent millions and millions on a new HVAC system for the Cowboy system so he could have fans in there this season when nobody else is having them. So what he didn't give to Dak, he worked for ventilation for his stadium instead. That's the word around there.
Okay, that's crazy, but all right. It seems like you're shooting yourself in the foot by doing that. But,
I'm with you.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me today, Swami. It was a lot of fun. We're all set up for this weekend. We got our draft tonight, so we could talk about our 2 teams next week after we see how they do on week 1. But anyway, thanks for joining me, and everybody out there, keep listening. And if you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe down below. And if you got any questions about these players or any others, just leave a comment. We'll be happy to answer them for you. So thanks everybody for joining, and we are out of here.